To be or not to be?
Not to be.
Thank you.
To be. Or not to be. That is the question.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Hi everyone, my name's Katie.
And my name is Simran.
And today we're going to be talking to you about religious conflict in Hamlet. So in this video, you can expect us to give you a bit of context about what religious conflict actually means, how it's relevant to Hamlet, and what sort of context affects the play itself. So we're going to be talking about ideas of the Reformation. We're going to be talking about the concept of heresy. And we're also going to be analysing the to be or not to be soliloquy that's so famous and talking about how it's relevant to these two ideas.
I'm going to start by giving you a brief overview of religion and religious conflict in Hamlet. So I'm going to be speaking about the Protestant Reformation and its relevance to Hamlet. The Protestant Reformation took place in the 16th century, and it was a movement to challenge the beliefs of the Catholic Church. For example, reformers claimed that the Catholic Church was corrupt, as it was believed to be charging people money to repent their sins. The corruption was first questioned by Martin Luther, a doctor in theology. In 1517, he published his 95 Theses, which attacked the Catholic Church for its corruption. Martin Luther's grievances with the Catholic Church were not considered by Henry VIII until a decade later, when Henry VIII wanted to annul his marriage, which the Catholic Church wouldn't allow. So there was back and forth between Protestantism and Catholicism due to the changes in beliefs of which monarch was on the throne. The Reformation began because the Catholic Church didn't allow Henry VIII to annul his marriage with Catherine of Aragon, so that he could remarry and have a male heir. In order to do this, he broke from the Catholic Church and dissolved the nation's monasteries. After his death, England headed towards Protestantism during Edward VI's reign. Under Mary I's reign, England went through 5 years of Catholicism. In 1559, during Elizabeth I's reign, she casted England in a middle way between Calvinism and Catholicism. Calvinism is a branch of Protestantism advanced by John Calvin. Hamlet was written during this middle way period. So why is this relevant for Hamlet? Well, the play represents religious inconsistency. Shakespeare incorporated beliefs of both Protestantism and Catholicism, perhaps to reach a wider audience, or perhaps to make a statement about religion. For example, we see references to the ghost being in purgatory, which is a feature of Catholicism. We also know that Hamlet studies at Wittenberg, which is where Martin Luther taught, so this could be a reference to shifting towards Protestantism. Religious conflict between Protestantism and Catholicism at the time translated to religious conflict within the play. For example, conflict between religion and revenge, religion and murder, between religion and suicide. Hamlet's hesitancy to carry out revenge or suicide is shaped by the conflict between the two major Christian divisions.
One term which is particularly relevant when discussing Hamlet, religion, and the Reformation is the concept of heresy. To be heretical means to be against popular and accepted beliefs, particularly within Christianity. Labelling someone as a heretic was often a good way to remove your opponents and enemies, whether they were against religious doctrine or not. Due to the Reformation, many people found themselves changing religion in order to fit in with the most accepted form of Christianity, depending on who was on the throne, kind of like adapting to a different fashion trend. This constant change meant that people began questioning the nature of religion. Heresy was not only to go against the will of God, but to reject God and his existence altogether. So one thing we wanted to point out is that there's a difference between heresy and blasphemy. This is because we actually didn't really know the difference ourselves when we were first creating this video. So heresy is going against doctrine, whereas blasphemy is taking the Lord's name in vain. So that's things like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. These two things do overlap, but they're not considered the same. So that's a really important thing worth noting when you're writing anything about Hamlet in terms of heresy. In the early modern period, heresy was a really serious crime that could lead to execution or burning. Today, heresy is still a concept that can be talked about, but it's not necessarily taken as seriously in British society. So a way that heresy might be used in a more sort of modern context is the idea of an emo kid who likes pop music. However, it's really worth noting that in other countries, heresy is still taken as a serious crime. So it's still something that's really relevant today. So as you can see here by these memes that we've got about Hamlet and the to be or not to be speech, that's what we're going to be talking about next. We're going to be talking about how the to be or not to be soliloquy, the most famous, arguably, in Shakespeare's repertoire, links to these ideas of uncertainty and rejection of God. So we're going to have a look at the very first line to see how it might be linked to these wider themes.
So the first feature of to be or not to be that we're going to look at is infinitive form. The first two words to be are found here in their infinitive form. They aren't linked to any particular tense. By placing the question in this form, it appears as though the question is never answered. It creates a sense of eternity. The question becomes timeless.
So the choice of the word be also reflects a sense of timelessness. One exercise worth trying is to replace be with other words and see how this may change the meaning. So words like to live, as though he's contemplating death. The word be here implies that he's contemplating existence entirely. This could be really strongly linked to the idea of heresy, as Hamlet appears to be contemplating the nature of existence, almost beyond God, as though Hamlet is the one to determine his free will over his destiny.
So now we're going to be looking at tone change. By placing the term or in the middle, the tone of the line shifts. The word not creates a negative weight upon the phrase and creates a sense of a binary between be and not be. This binary can be really interesting when thinking about the ghost, who seems to be in a liminal state of purgatory. Is he being or not being? Binaries are also worth considering when thinking about the Reformation. This contradiction between two different ideologies caused uncertainty, similarly to that Hamlet appears to be facing.
By ending the line in a question, this further reinforces Hamlet's depressed mental state brought about by this uncertainty. In fact, the only thing that appears to be certain is the question itself. The phrase "that is the" is definitive, placing this question above all others.
As always with Shakespeare, it is worth looking at how the rhythm of the text may also be relevant to the wider context of the play. This line sets itself up to fit into the structure of iambic pentameter, yet falls at the end by adding an extra syllable. This could demonstrate again Hamlet's state of turmoil, unable to perform a more standardized rhythm. Another interpretation is that Hamlet is subverting expectations, breaking free from established ideas. You might consider here how Hamlet breaking free of expectations and rules may be linked to this idea of religious conflict.
So we wanted to end this presentation by handing over to you. So if you click on the links in the description box, we've got a series of interactive games and challenges for you to think more about how religious conflict affects Hamlet, ideas more about the Reformation, and thinking about the concept of heresy. We really hope you enjoyed this presentation and found it very useful.